Maya checked her reflection one last time before stepping out of the car. The red dress she'd chosen looked perfect, but it didn't make her feel any better about what was coming. Her cousin's wedding was going to be beautiful, expensive, and absolutely exhausting for her. She wasn't dreading the ceremony itself. Weddings were lovely. What she was dreading was the inevitable questioning, the pitying looks, and worst of all, the comments from her family about why she was still single at 32. As she walked into the grand hotel ballroom, the first thing she noticed was how everything sparkled. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. White roses covered every surface, and round tables draped in ivory silk filled the space. It was the kind of wedding that cost more than most people's cars. The second thing she noticed was her Aunt Patricia making a beeline toward her. "Maya, darling, you made it." Her aunt's eyes immediately scanned the area behind her. "Oh, you came alone again?" Maya forced a smile. "Yes, Aunt Patricia. Just me." "That's such a shame." Her aunt's voice dripped with false sympathy. "Well, you're sitting at table 7 with the family. Your mother is already there." Table 7, of course. The family table where everyone would have a front row seat to her solitary presence. Maya made her way through the crowd, greeting relatives and family friends. Each conversation followed the same pattern. They'd compliment her dress, ask about work, and then their eyes would drift, searching for a partner who wasn't there. Some were kind enough not to mention it. Others weren't so tactful. When she finally reached table 7, her mother looked up with a mixture of hope and disappointment. The hope faded quickly when she realized Maya was alone. "Sweetheart, you look beautiful," her mother said, kissing her cheek. "I saved you a seat." The seat in question was painfully obvious. Everyone else at the table was paired up. Her uncle and aunt sat together. Her brother had brought his girlfriend. Even her teenage cousin had a date. And then there was Maya, with an empty chair beside her that might as well have had a spotlight on it. The ceremony was beautiful. Her cousin looked radiant. The vows were touching, and Maya genuinely felt happy for the couple. It was during the reception dinner that things started to fall apart. Her Aunt Patricia, apparently emboldened by champagne, decided to make her observations public. "You know what I find amazing?" she announced loudly enough for half the table to hear. "Jessica is already 3 months pregnant. Can you believe it? 26 years old and already married with a baby on the way." Everyone at the table knew exactly where this was going. Maya could feel her cheeks burning. "Meanwhile, some people," her aunt continued, her eyes landing squarely on Maya, "can't even manage to find a date to bring to a wedding. It's really quite sad when you think about it." Maya's mother tried to intervene. "Patricia, that's enough." But her aunt was on a roll. "I'm just saying, at her age, she should be thinking about settling down." "Time isn't on her side, you know. Women her age need to be realistic." The worst part wasn't the words themselves. Maya had heard variations of this speech 100 times. The worst part was that other guests at nearby tables had started turning to look. Some pretended they weren't listening, but Maya could see them whispering to each other. Her brother's girlfriend reached over and squeezed her hand under the table, a small gesture of support. But it wasn't enough to stop the tears that were threatening to spill over. "Excuse me," Maya said quietly, pushing back her chair. "I need some air." She walked quickly toward the back of the ballroom, hoping no one would follow her. The last thing she needed was more pity or worse, more advice about how she should try harder to meet someone. She found an empty table in the far corner, partially hidden by a decorative column and some potted plants. It was meant for overflow guests. But this area was empty. Perfect. She could sit here, collect herself, and maybe figure out how to survive the rest of this evening. Maya sat down heavily, fighting the urge to cry. She wasn't going to give her aunt the satisfaction. She pulled out her phone, pretending to be busy with something important, hoping it would make her look less pathetic sitting alone. That's when she heard a voice behind her. "I don't mean to intrude, but you look like you could use some company." Maya turned to find a man standing a few feet away, holding 2 glasses of champagne. He was tall, probably in his mid-30s, wearing a suit that looked like it cost more than her monthly rent. But it was his eyes that caught her attention. They were kind, with a hint of concern. "I'm fine." "Really?" Maya said automatically, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "That's what people always say right before they're absolutely not fine," he said with a gentle smile. He gestured to the empty chair across from her. "May I?" Maya hesitated, then nodded. What did she have to lose at this point? He sat down and placed one of the champagne glasses in front of her. I'm Ethan, by the way, friend of the groom's family. Well, more like a business associate who got roped into attending. Maya, she said, accepting the glass. Cousin of the bride, unfortunately. Unfortunately. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Long story. I've got time. This reception is supposed to last another 3 hours, and I've already fulfilled my obligation of showing up and congratulating the happy couple. There was something about him that made Maya want to talk. Maybe it was because he was a stranger, someone who didn't know her history or her family's expectations. Or maybe it was just because he seemed genuinely interested in listening. My family thinks I'm a disappointment, she said, surprising herself with her honesty. I'm 32, I have a good job, I own my apartment, I'm financially stable. But none of that matters because I don't have a husband. Ethan nodded slowly. Let me guess. They think you should lower your standards? Or try harder? Or stop focusing so much on your career? All of the above. My aunt just announced to the entire table, and probably half the reception, that I can't even find a date to bring to a wedding. That's incredibly rude. That's Aunt Patricia. Maya took a sip of champagne. I shouldn't let it bother me. I know I'm doing fine. I like my life. But sitting here alone while everyone else is paired up, having people stare at me like I'm some kind of tragic figure, it gets old. Ethan was quiet for a moment, studying her with those thoughtful eyes. Then he smiled, and it transformed his entire face. What if you weren't alone? He asked. What do you mean? He leaned forward slightly, and Maya caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something else. Maybe cedar or sandalwood. What if, he said slowly, for the rest of this evening you had someone sitting next to you? Someone who could run interference with your family and make it very clear that you are absolutely not alone. Maya stared at him. Are you offering to be my fake date? I'm offering to help you get through what's clearly a difficult evening. No strings attached. Tomorrow we go back to being strangers. But tonight, he raised his glass. Tonight, pretend I'm your husband. Maya nearly choked on her champagne. I'm sorry, what? Ethan's expression remained calm, almost playful. Pretend I'm your husband. Just for tonight. We'll sit together, make small talk, and your family will have nothing to gossip about. Problem solved. That's crazy, Maya said, though she couldn't help the small laugh that escaped. You don't even know me. True, but I know enough to see that you're here alone, dealing with some seriously toxic family dynamics, and you could use an ally. He leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. Look, I get it. I have family too. The kind who think they have the right to comment on every aspect of your life. Sometimes you need a little backup. Maya studied him carefully. He didn't look like a creep or someone with ulterior motives. His offer seemed genuine, almost protective in a way that surprised her. Still, this was absurd. Why would you do this for a complete stranger? She asked. Ethan shrugged. Maybe I don't like watching people get bullied. Maybe I'm bored. And this seems more interesting than making small talk about quarterly earnings with the groom's father. Does it matter? It's a nice offer, but I don't think it would work. My family would ask questions. They'd want to know everything about you, about us. So we'll tell them. Ethan pulled his chair closer to the table, his tone becoming more businesslike. We met at a coffee shop 6 months ago. You spilled your latte on my laptop. We started talking, discovered we had a lot in common, and things developed naturally from there. We got married 2 months ago in a small ceremony because we didn't want a big fuss. Maya blinked. You just made that up on the spot? I'm good at thinking on my feet. It's part of my job, he smiled. The key to a good cover story is keeping it simple. The more details you add, the easier it is to mess up. We stick to the basics, stay vague on anything specific, and deflect with questions about their lives. People love talking about themselves. You've done this before, haven't you? Not exactly this. But I've navigated my share of complicated social situations. He extended his hand across the table. So what do you say? Want to give your family something to talk about besides your relationship status? Maya looked at his hand, then back at his face. This was absolutely insane. She didn't know this man. For all she knew, he could be a con artist or worse. But something in his eyes told her he was sincere. And honestly, what did she have to lose? The evening was already a disaster. Okay, she said, shaking his hand. But we need ground rules. Nothing weird, no inappropriate touching, and tomorrow we go our separate ways. This is just for tonight. Agreed. Professional and respectful. Ethan's handshake was firm and warm. Ready to go back out there? Not really, but let's do it anyway. They stood up together and Ethan offered her his arm. Maya hesitated for just a second before taking it. They walked back through the reception hall and Maya could feel her heart pounding. This was either going to be brilliant or blow up in her face spectacularly. As they approached table 7, Maya's mother spotted them first. Her eyes widened and she elbowed Maya's father, who looked up in confusion. Aunt Patricia was in the middle of another speech about the importance of family when she noticed Maya returning with a man on her arm. Her mouth literally fell open. "Sorry for the delay," Ethan said smoothly as they reached the table. He pulled out Maya's chair for her with the ease of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. "Work emergency. I had to take a call outside." Maya's mother found her voice first. "I'm sorry, who are you?" Ethan extended his hand with a warm smile. "Ethan Cross, Maya's husband. I apologize for arriving late. I tried to get here for the ceremony, but business doesn't always cooperate." The table went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Maya's father slowly shook Ethan's hand, looking completely bewildered. Her brother's jaw had gone slack. Even the couple at the next table over had stopped talking to stare. Aunt Patricia recovered first, though her voice came out strained. "Husband? Maya, you're married? When did this happen?" "2 months ago," Maya said, trying to sound casual even though her pulse was racing. "We kept it small, just immediate family and a few close friends." This was technically a lie since there had been no wedding at all, but Maya figured if she was going to do this, she might as well commit to it. 2 months? Her mother's voice climbed an octave. "And you didn't tell us?" Ethan jumped in smoothly, sensing Maya's discomfort. "That's my fault, I'm afraid. I'm a bit of a private person when it comes to personal matters. We wanted to enjoy being newlyweds without all the pressure and fuss of a big celebration." He placed his hand over Maya's on the table, the gesture looking completely natural. "But Maya has told me so much about all of you. I'm glad to finally meet her family." It was a masterful deflection. Suddenly, instead of being interrogated, they were being welcomed. Maya's father started asking about Ethan's work. Her mother wanted to know how they met. Her brother looked impressed, and Aunt Patricia seemed to have lost the ability to form words. Ethan handled every question with practiced ease. He was the CEO of a tech company, he explained, which was why he traveled frequently for work. He and Maya had met at a coffee shop near her office. She'd accidentally spilled her drink. They'd started talking, and he'd asked for her number. "It was one of those moments where you just know," Ethan said, looking at Maya with such warmth that she almost believed him herself. "Sometimes the right person walks into your life when you least expect it." Maya felt her cheeks flush. He was good at this. Too good. Her mother was beaming now, all earlier disappointment forgotten. "Well, this is wonderful news. Patricia, isn't this wonderful?" Aunt Patricia managed a tight smile. "Yes, quite surprising. Congratulations." The rest of dinner passed in a blur. Ethan kept his hand on Maya's, occasionally rubbing his thumb across her knuckles in a gesture that felt surprisingly intimate. He laughed at her uncle's jokes, complimented her mother's outfit, and managed to make everyone at the table feel like he was genuinely interested in what they had to say. When the music started and couples began moving to the dance floor, Ethan stood and offered Maya his hand. "Dance with me?" he asked. Maya's heart skipped. Dancing meant being close to him, and she was already feeling confused by how natural this all felt. But everyone was watching, waiting to see the newlyweds together. "Of course," she said, taking his hand. He led her to the dance floor just as a slow song began. Ethan pulled her close, one hand on her waist, the other holding hers. They moved together easily, and Maya realized he was an excellent dancer. "You're doing great," he murmured near her ear, his breath warm against her skin. "Your aunt looks like she swallowed a lemon." Maya couldn't help but laugh. "Thank you for this, seriously. I know it's weird, but you've made this whole night bearable." "It's not weird." "Well, maybe a little weird, but sometimes weird is exactly what you need." He spun her gently, and when she came back, he was smiling. "Besides, I'm actually having a good time. Your family is entertaining. That's one word for them." They danced through 2 more songs, and with each passing minute, Maya found herself relaxing into his arms. He smelled good, like expensive cologne and something else she couldn't quite place. His hand was steady on her back, guiding her through the steps. Other relatives approached them throughout the evening, wanting to meet Maya's mysterious husband. Each time, Ethan played his role perfectly, charming and attentive, never missing a beat. As the night wore on, Maya started to forget this was all pretend. The way Ethan looked at her, the gentle touches, the inside jokes that developed between them, it all felt surprisingly real. When the reception finally began to wind down, Maya's mother pulled her aside while Ethan was talking with her father. "He's wonderful, sweetheart," her mother said, tears in her eyes. "I'm so happy for you. I was worried, but clearly you knew what you were doing. He's perfect for you." Guilt twisted in Maya's stomach. This had started as a simple way to get through one difficult evening. She hadn't thought about what would happen after, about how her mother would feel when the truth came out. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Tonight she had a pretend husband who'd saved her from humiliation and given her family exactly what they wanted to see. The reception was finally ending. Guests were collecting their favors and saying their goodbyes. Maya felt exhausted, but in a different way than she'd expected. Instead of being drained from family criticism, she was tired from keeping up the act, from pretending, from trying not to think too hard about how right it felt to have Ethan's arm around her waist. They walked toward the parking lot together, maintaining the appearance of a couple until they were safely away from prying eyes. Once they reached a quiet area between two rows of cars, Ethan finally dropped his arm from her waist. "Well," he said, "I think we pulled that off." Maya laughed. A real laugh this time, not the nervous ones from earlier. "Pulled it off? You were amazing. My family completely bought it. My aunt actually looked happy for me by the end of the night." "That's because your aunt realized she couldn't use you as her punching bag anymore." Ethan loosened his tie slightly. "For what it's worth, your family isn't as bad as some I've dealt with. They care about you, even if they have a terrible way of showing it." "That's generous of you." Maya hugged herself against the cool night air. "Thank you, Ethan, really, you saved me tonight. I don't know how I can repay you." "You don't need to repay me. Consider it a good deed." He pulled out his phone. "But we should probably exchange numbers just in case." "In case of what?" "In case your family wants to meet me again, or asks questions. It's better if we can coordinate our story." He handed her his phone. "Put your number in." Maya typed in her number, trying not to think about how much she didn't want this to end. Which was ridiculous. She'd known this man for a few hours. This was all pretend. Tomorrow they'd go back to their separate lives and never see each other again. She handed the phone back and their fingers brushed. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Ethan cleared his throat and stepped back. "So this is goodbye, I guess," Maya said. "Goodbye, wife," Ethan said with a small smile. "It was nice being married to you for an evening." Maya laughed despite the strange ache in her chest. "Easiest marriage I'll ever have." They stood there for another moment, the air between them feeling heavier than it should. Then Ethan gave her a small wave and walked toward his car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than Maya made in a year. Maya watched him drive away, then got into her own car. As she started the engine, her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Bring Ethan for dinner next weekend. We want to get to know him properly." Maya's stomach dropped. She should have seen this coming. Of course her family would want to see them again. Of course they'd want to build a relationship with her supposed husband. What had she been thinking? She drove home in a daze, her mind racing through possible excuses. Maybe she could say Ethan had to travel for work, or that they were having marital problems already. No, that would just make things worse. By the time she reached her apartment, Maya had convinced herself that she'd find a way to handle it. She'd tell her mother they were too busy. Eventually, the whole thing would fade away. Her family would get distracted by something else. She changed into comfortable clothes, made herself tea, and tried to forget about the entire evening. But when she closed her eyes, all she could see was Ethan's warm smile and the way his hand had felt in hers. The weekend passed uneventfully. Maya ignored 3 more texts from her mother about dinner plans and 2 from Aunt Patricia asking for Ethan's Instagram handle. She threw herself into preparing for Monday's big meeting at work, grateful for the distraction. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Maya dressed in her best professional outfit and headed to the office early. Her company had just landed a major partnership, and her department would be working directly with the partner company on a marketing campaign. It was a huge opportunity, and Maya was determined to make a good impression. She grabbed coffee from the break room and headed to the conference room. Several of her colleagues were already there, chatting nervously. Everyone knew this partnership could make or break their quarter. Did you see who we're partnering with? Her coworker Lisa whispered. Cross Industries. They're huge. Maya froze, her coffee cup halfway to her lips. Cross Industries? Yeah, the tech company. Apparently their CEO is really hands-on. He'll be leading the meetings himself. No. No. It couldn't be. Cross was a common enough name. There had to be hundreds of companies with Cross in the name. This was just a coincidence. The door opened and Maya's boss walked in, followed by 3 people in expensive suits. And there, right in the middle of them, was Ethan. Their eyes met across the conference room. Maya watched as surprise flashed across his face, followed by something that might have been amusement or panic. She couldn't tell because her own heart was hammering so loudly she could barely hear her boss making introductions. Everyone, this is Ethan Cross, CEO of Cross Industries, and his team. Maya wanted the floor to open up and swallow her. Of all the companies in this city, of all the CEOs who could have walked through that door, it had to be him. The man she'd pretended to be married to 3 days ago was now going to be her boss on this project. Ethan shook hands with everyone, working his way around the table. When he reached Maya, his handshake was professional, his expression neutral. Maya Chen, he said, as if reading her nameplate. Marketing manager. I look forward to working with you. Likewise, Maya managed to say, her voice sounding strange to her own ears. The meeting began, and Maya tried to focus on the presentation, on the campaign goals, on literally anything except the fact that Ethan was sitting 15 feet away from her. Every time she glanced in his direction, she found him looking at her, a slight furrow between his eyebrows. The meeting lasted 2 hours. 2 hours of Maya trying to appear professional while her mind screamed at the absurdity of the situation. When it finally ended, everyone stood to leave. Maya tried to slip out quickly, but her boss called her back. Maya, stay for a moment. Mr. Cross wanted to discuss some specifics about the marketing approach. Of course he did. The room emptied until it was just Maya, Ethan, and her boss. Ethan waited until the door closed, then turned to Maya's boss with a polite smile. Actually, would you mind if I spoke with Ms. Chen privately? I have some questions about the demographic research and I don't want to take up more of your time. Maya's boss looked thrilled. Of course. Maya is one of our best. She'll take good care of you. He practically rushed out of the room. The door clicked shut. Silence filled the space between them. So, Ethan said finally, leaning against the table. This is awkward. That's an understatement. Maya sat down heavily in a chair. You're a CEO? You didn't think to mention that at the wedding? You didn't ask what I did. He ran a hand through his hair, looking less composed than he had during the entire wedding. I told your family I ran a tech company. That wasn't a lie. You said you ran a company. You didn't say you were the CEO of Cross Industries. Maya felt slightly hysterical. Do you know how bad this looks? If anyone finds out about the wedding, about what we did, I could lose my job. This could ruin my reputation. No one is going to find out. My entire family thinks we're married, Ethan. My mother wants you to come to dinner. My aunt is probably Googling you right now. Maya stood up and started pacing. This is a disaster. Ethan was quiet for a moment, watching her pace. Then he said something that made her stop in her tracks. What if we didn't tell them the truth? Maya turned to stare at him. What? What if we kept up the act? Not forever, just for a while. Long enough that when we eventually divorce, it seems natural. Are you insane? We work together now. Exactly. Which means we'll see each other regularly anyway. We can maintain the appearance of a marriage for your family, keep things professional at work, and in 6 months or a year, we quietly separate. No one gets hurt. No one loses face. Maya couldn't believe what she was hearing. You want to fake marry me for real? I'm saying we continue what we started. Look, I have my own reasons for why this could work in my favor. Family pressure, business image, things I didn't mention at the wedding because I thought we'd never see each other again. He met her eyes. But now that circumstances have changed, maybe we can help each other out. This is crazy. Probably. But is it crazier than sitting alone at that wedding while your aunt humiliated you? Ethan's voice was gentle. Think about it, Maya. What do you really have to lose? Maya stared at Ethan like he'd grown a second head. You can't be serious right now. I'm completely serious. Ethan crossed his arms, looking every bit the confident CEO he was. Think about it logically. Your family believes we're married. My grandmother has been hounding me for years to settle down. We're going to be working together for the next several months anyway. Why not make this arrangement work for both of us? Because it's insane. Maya threw her hands up. People don't just fake marry each other because it's convenient. Actually, they do. Marriage of convenience is a tale as old as time. He pulled out a chair and sat down, clearly prepared to make his case. Look, I'm not talking about anything complicated. We'd keep separate residences, live our own lives. We'd just show up together for family events and maintain appearances in public when necessary. Maya sat down across from him, her mind spinning. Why do you even need this? You're successful, you're attractive, you could actually date someone if you wanted to. Could I? Ethan's smile was slightly bitter. I'm 36 years old, and I've spent the last decade building my company from the ground up. I work 80-hour weeks. I travel constantly. What woman wants to date someone who cancels dinner plans 3 times a week because of business emergencies? Plenty of people manage careers and relationships. Sure, but I'm not most people. And honestly, I don't have the time or energy for a real relationship right now. He leaned forward. My grandmother controls 40% of the company shares. She's threatening to vote against every major decision I make unless I prove I'm stable and settled. To her, that means married. Maya processed this. So you need a wife for business reasons. And you need a husband to get your family off your back. We can help each other. It was tempting. Maya hated to admit how tempting it was. The thought of never having to sit through another wedding alone, never having to hear her aunt's snide comments, never seeing that disappointed look in her mother's eyes. It was almost worth the insanity of what Ethan was proposing. What about work? She asked. Won't it be weird working together if we're supposedly married? We'll keep it professional at the office. Plenty of couples work in the same industry. As long as we're not directly supervising each other, it shouldn't be a problem. And when we eventually divorce, that won't look suspicious? Ethan shrugged. People get divorced all the time. We'll say we wanted different things, grew apart, whatever. By then, I'll have secured my position with the board, and your family will have had time to adjust to seeing you in a relationship. We end things amicably, no drama. Maya wanted to say no. Every logical part of her brain was screaming that this was a terrible idea. But another part of her, the part that was tired of defending her life choices and explaining why she was still single, that part was seriously considering it. I need time to think about this, she said finally. Fair enough. But Maya, we don't have much time. Your mother already wants me at dinner next weekend, right? We need to decide what we're doing before this gets more complicated. He was right. She hated that he was right. Okay. Give me until tomorrow. I'll have an answer by then. Ethan stood and straightened his tie. Tomorrow it is, and Maya, whatever you decide, I respect it. If you want to tell your family the truth, we'll figure out how to do that without it affecting your work here. I promise. That evening, Maya sat in her apartment with a glass of wine, staring at her phone. She'd made a pros and cons list. She'd called her best friend Rachel and explained the entire situation, which had resulted in a 20-minute conversation that was mostly Rachel laughing in disbelief. This is like something from a movie, Rachel had said. Please tell me you're considering it. I'm not considering it. It's ridiculous. It's brilliant. You get your family off your back, he gets his business sorted, and who knows, maybe you'll actually fall for each other. That's not happening. This would be a business arrangement, nothing more. Sure, Maya. Keep telling yourself that. But now, alone with her thoughts, Maya couldn't deny that Rachel had a point. Not about falling for Ethan, that was absurd. But about the practical benefits. No more awkward family dinners where she was the only single person. No more setups with her aunt's colleague's nephew's friend. No more pitying looks, her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. Sweetheart, I've invited the whole family for dinner on Saturday. Everyone wants to meet Ethan properly. You'll both be there, right? Maya closed her eyes. The whole family. That meant not just her immediate relatives, but cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone. If she backed out now, if she told them the truth, the humiliation would be worse than anything Aunt Patricia had dished out at the wedding. She picked up her phone and typed a message to Ethan. I'll do it. But we need a contract. Clear terms, boundaries, exit strategy. Everything in writing. His response came within seconds. Agreed. My lawyer can draft something tomorrow. Meet me for lunch at Marco's at noon? Maya hesitated, then typed back. See you there. The next day, Maya arrived at Marco's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. Ethan was already there, sitting at a quiet corner table with a folder in front of him. That was fast, Maya said, sitting down. Your lawyer works quickly. I may have called him last night just in case. Ethan slid the folder across the table. Read through it. I want to make sure you're comfortable with everything. Maya opened the folder and started reading. The contract was surprisingly thorough. Duration of 1 year, with option to extend or terminate with 30 days notice. Separate residences. Joint appearances at family events and public functions as needed. Confidentiality clause. Financial arrangements, including a monthly allowance for Maya to cover any additional expenses. Wait. Maya looked up. You're offering to pay me? Not pay you. This arrangement requires you to attend events, possibly travel. Buy appropriate clothes for certain functions. That costs money. It's only fair that I cover those expenses. I don't want your money, Ethan. It's not about what you want. It's about what's equitable. This arrangement benefits us both, but it asks more of you in terms of time and effort. The allowance ensures you're not out of pocket for any of it. His tone was firm. It's non-negotiable. Maya continued reading. The contract was actually quite fair, protecting both of them. There was even a clause about what would happen if either of them wanted to date someone else. A scenario that seemed unlikely but was covered nonetheless. This is very detailed, Maya said. I believe in being thorough. Ethan leaned back. Any concerns? Just one. What happens if we can't stand each other by the end of this? Ethan smiled. Then we'll have spent a year in a loveless marriage just like millions of other couples. At least ours has an expiration date. Maya couldn't help but laugh. You have an answer for everything, don't you? It's part of my charm. The waiter came by to take their order. As they ate, they discussed logistics. Ethan had a penthouse apartment downtown, but Maya would keep her place. They'd need to stage some photos for social media to make things look legitimate. They'd attend her family dinner on Saturday, and the following week Maya would meet Ethan's grandmother. Fair warning, Ethan said. My grandmother is intense. She'll ask very personal questions, and she has excellent radar for deception. Great. No pressure then. Just be yourself. She'll like you. He paused. I like you, actually. You're smart, you're honest, and you don't take my nonsense. This could work, Maya. There was something in his tone that made Maya's heart skip. She pushed the feeling away. This was business. Nothing more. After lunch, they both signed the contract. Ethan kept one copy, Maya kept another, and the lawyer would file the third. It was done. She was officially in a fake marriage with her new boss. As they left the restaurant, Ethan surprised her by taking her hand. What are you doing? Maya asked. We're married, remember? We need to start acting like it. Even when we think no one is watching, you never know who might see us. He squeezed her hand gently. Besides, you need to get comfortable with this. Saturday is going to be intense, he was right. If they were going to pull this off, they needed to be convincing. Maya let him hold her hand as they walked back toward their offices. It felt strange and natural at the same time, his fingers intertwined with hers. Ethan, she said quietly. Yeah? Thank you. For being honest about all of this. For putting everything in writing. It makes me feel safer. He stopped walking and turned to face her. Maya, I meant what I said yesterday. I respect you. This arrangement only works if we both feel good about it. The moment that changes, we walk away. Deal? Deal. Saturday arrived too quickly. Maya changed outfits 4 times before settling on a casual but elegant dress. Ethan picked her up at 6, and she had to admit he looked good in jeans and a crisp button-down shirt. Ready? He asked. Not even a little bit. Perfect. Me neither, he grinned. Let's go convince your family we're madly in love. The drive to her parents' house felt longer than usual. Maya's hands were sweating, and she kept smoothing down her dress nervously. Ethan noticed and reached over to take her hand. Breathe, he said softly. We've got this. Just follow my lead, and if you get uncomfortable, squeeze my hand twice. I'll find an excuse for us to step outside. Maya nodded, grateful for the signal. Having an escape plan made her feel slightly less terrified. They pulled up to her childhood home, a modest 2-story house with a well-maintained garden. Maya could see movement through the windows. Her entire family was already there, waiting to meet her husband properly. Last chance to back out, Ethan said. Turning off the engine, you wish, Maya replied, trying to sound braver than she felt. He smiled and came around to open her door, offering his hand. Then let's go meet the family, Mrs. Cross. The use of his last name sent an unexpected flutter through her stomach. She pushed it aside and took his hand. Her mother opened the door before they could even knock, pulling Maya into a tight hug. Oh, sweetheart. And Ethan. She hugged him too, which seemed to surprise him slightly. Come in, come in. Everyone is so excited to meet you. The house was packed. Not just her immediate family, but her cousins, her grandmother, Uncle Richard and Aunt Helen, and of course Aunt Patricia. Maya felt Ethan's hand tighten around hers, a silent message of support. Everyone, they're here, her mother announced. The interrogation began immediately. Where did they go on their honeymoon? Why hadn't they told anyone sooner? When were they planning to have children? The questions came rapid fire from all directions. Ethan handled it beautifully. They'd gone to a small cabin in the mountains for their honeymoon, he explained, because they both wanted peace and quiet. They hadn't told anyone because Maya wanted to avoid all the wedding stress, and he'd supported her decision. As for children, they were enjoying being newlyweds first. Maya watched him in amazement. He made it all sound so believable, so natural. He even had little details ready, like how Maya had burned the pancakes on their first morning as a married couple, which made everyone laugh. Dinner was a loud, chaotic affair with 14 people crowded around the extended dining table. Ethan sat next to Maya, his hand occasionally finding hers under the table. Every touch felt both comforting and confusing. Aunt Patricia, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up during dessert. So, Ethan, you run a tech company? Her tone was casual, but Maya recognized the sharpness underneath. I do. Cross industries. We focus on software solutions for businesses. Must be successful. That's quite an expensive watch you're wearing, Maya tensed. Here it came. The accusation that Ethan was only interested in money, or that Maya had somehow trapped him, or whatever twisted narrative her aunt had constructed. But Ethan just smiled. I've been fortunate in my career, yes, but the best investment I ever made was taking a chance on a woman who spilled coffee on my laptop. The table laughed, and even Aunt Patricia couldn't find a comeback to that. Maya squeezed Ethan's hand under the table, a silent thank you. After dinner, while the others were having coffee in the living room, Maya's mother pulled her aside into the kitchen. He's wonderful. Sweetheart, her mother said, her eyes bright. I can see how much he cares about you. The way he looks at you, the way he speaks about you, it's obvious. Guilt twisted in Maya's stomach. Mom, I'm sorry, her mother interrupted. For all the pressure we've put on you over the years. I thought I was helping. But I see now that I was just making you feel bad about yourself. You were waiting for the right person, and you found him. I should have trusted you. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. This was exactly what she'd wanted to hear for years. But it was based on a lie. A lie she'd created with a contract and a handshake. Mom, there's something I need to tell you. There you are. Ethan appeared in the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but your Uncle Richard is telling the story about the fishing trip again, and I think Maya promised to rescue me if that happened. Her mother laughed. Go, we'll talk more later. Ethan led Maya outside to the back porch. The cool evening air was a relief after the warmth of the crowded house. You okay? He asked quietly. You looked like you were about to break. My mom just apologized to me. For years of making me feel inadequate, because she thinks I found you. Maya leaned against the porch railing. This feels wrong, Ethan. These are real people with real feelings, and we're lying to them. I know. He stood beside her, close, but not touching. But would your mother have apologized if you'd shown up alone again tonight? Would your aunt have stopped making comments? Would your family have treated you with the respect you deserve? Maya didn't answer because she knew the truth. Nothing would have changed unless she'd changed the situation herself. Sometimes a small lie protects people from a bigger hurt, Ethan said softly. You're not doing this to be cruel. You're doing this to survive a difficult situation with your dignity intact. Is that what you tell yourself? That you're protecting your grandmother by lying about our marriage? I tell myself that I'm 20 years into building something meaningful, and I'm not going to let family politics destroy it. He turned to look at her. But I also tell myself that maybe this isn't entirely a lie. Maya's heart stopped. What do you mean? I mean that I've enjoyed every moment I've spent with you. I mean that I look forward to our coffee meetings to coordinate stories. I mean that sitting at that dinner table tonight pretending to be your husband didn't feel like pretending at all. The air between them felt electric. Maya couldn't breathe, couldn't think. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was a business arrangement. Nothing more. Ethan, he stepped closer. I'm not saying we tear up the contract. I'm not saying we need to change anything. I'm just saying that maybe, over the next year, we could see what happens. Real conversations, real friendship, maybe more. No pressure, no expectations. Just possibility. Before Maya could respond, the back door opened. Her brother stuck his head out. Hey, you two. Grandma wants a picture of the newlyweds. Come on. They went back inside, Maya's mind spinning. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of photos and stories and laughter. Through it all, she was hyper-aware of Ethan beside her. The way his hand rested on her back. The way he laughed at her jokes. The way he fit into her family like he'd always been there. When they finally said their goodbyes and got back in the car, neither of them spoke for several minutes. Ethan drove through the quiet streets and Maya stared out the window trying to process everything. I meant what I said. Ethan finally broke the silence. On the porch. I know this started as an arrangement, but I'd like to get to know the real you, if you're open to that. Maya turned to look at him. In the dim light from the street lamps, she could see the sincerity in his face. This confident CEO who had everything figured out looked almost vulnerable. I'd like that too, she admitted quietly. A smile spread across his face. Yeah, but slowly. We still have the contract. We still have the arrangement. But maybe we can also have coffee dates that aren't just about coordinating stories. Maybe we can have actual conversations about our lives. I can work with that. He pulled up in front of her apartment building. Same time next week, your place or mine? Yours, Maya said without thinking. I'd like to see where you actually live, not just the version you present to the world. Fair enough. He got out and walked her to her door, like a proper date. Thank you for tonight. Your family is overwhelming, but in a good way. They really love you. Thank you for handling my aunt with such grace. I thought she was going to interrogate you like a detective. Please, I've faced hostile board members. Your aunt was easy. He grinned, then grew more serious. Maya, I want you to know that whatever this becomes, I'm all in. Whether it's just a successful business arrangement or something more, I'm committed to making sure you never regret saying yes. Maya felt her walls crumbling. This man who had started as a stranger, who had offered to fake marry her out of kindness, was slowly becoming someone she couldn't imagine not knowing. Same here, she said softly. They stood there for a moment, the space between them charged with possibility. Then Ethan leaned in and kissed her forehead, gentle and sweet. Good night, wife. Good night, husband. Maya watched him walk back to his car, then let herself into her apartment. She leaned against the door, her heart racing. This was supposed to be simple. A contract, an arrangement, a solution to both their problems. But somewhere between the wedding reception and tonight, something had shifted. What had started as pretend was beginning to feel very, very real. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Your grandmother told me she expects great-grandchildren within 2 years. Just thought you should know what you're in for. Maya laughed and typed back. Your problem, not mine. You're the one who wanted this fake marriage. Who said anything about fake? I think we just had a very real dinner with your very real family. Pretty sure that's what married people do. Maya smiled at her phone, feeling something warm bloom in her chest. Maybe Rachel had been right. Maybe this ridiculous arrangement could become something more. She typed one more message. See you next week. And Ethan? Thank you. For everything. His response was immediate. Always. As Maya got ready for bed, she couldn't stop thinking about his words on the porch. About possibility. About the year ahead. About what might happen when two people pretending to be married accidentally fell in love for real. She'd sat alone at that wedding just 2 weeks ago, feeling like her life was going nowhere. Now she had a fake husband, a year-long contract, and the strangest feeling that she'd stumbled into exactly where she was meant to be. Sometimes the best relationships started with the words, "Pretend I'm your husband." And sometimes, if you were very lucky, pretending became the truth.